And what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It is your boy Cheap Ludes. Recovered from last night's festivities, I suppose, something of that nature. So, as you guys know, normally I do drop the top 10 budget cards, top 10 cards under 100K lists every single weekend, if not every weekend, every 2 weekends, etc. But I've been receiving a lot of constructive criticism about those videos. It is what it is. So I've decided to switch it up. Instead, I'm just going to do one singular video this week, just kind of see how it goes, and just talk about the best cards at every budget under 100K, essentially. So I'm just going to be highlighting some really nice cards that you should be picking up. Basically, I just don't feel like doing it in the top 10 format. So let's take a look at some cards that would be worth picking up, period, at this point. We'll start with the Bracket Buster set. I'm not going to go too in depth here. Evan Turner is one of the best budget point guards in the game. Base 22 on Quick is really, really solid. It's a really, really good release. You can get him for basically nothing. I mean, he's 6'7" at the point guard position. You know, he does move really well. He's got a shifty dribble style, decent like dribble moves and stuff like that. Evan Turner is one of those cards that I would say every single person needs to pick up. Whether that be for limited purposes, whether that be for just like fun usage purposes, there's absolutely no reason you shouldn't spend 1,000 MT on Evan Turner. Like, I know he's taken a bit of a price increase because, you know, people are hyping this card, but the reality of the situation is, like, there's so many of them. Like, there's these packs odds wise are horrendous. So people are drawing Evan Turners like crazy. So I mean, if you have to spend 3,000 MT on Evan Turner, I absolutely think that's worth it. Even up to 5 is probably worth it. Though I would try to get him for less than that. That's just my own personal opinion. Like, I'm going to buy this holographic one for 5K. I don't even care. Like, whatever. I need more hollows anyway. It's fine. Evan Turner's fire. Doug McDermott, actually surprisingly very good. I've been running with him a little bit just for funsies, and he's really solid. I mean, you can get him for remarkably cheap, you know, somewhere as close to like 2,000 MT. And I would say for 2,000 MT, he's absolutely worth it. You could do a lot worse than running Doug McDermott. Like, he's not the best athlete in the world, and he's more going to be just a pure 3-point shooter for the most part. But I mean, he is 6'7", got a decent wingspan. Like, his badges are good. He has, like, you know, gold break wall. Like, he's got surprisingly decent defensive badges: gold rim protector, gold clamps, interceptor, intimidator. Like, pretty much every card is going to have those at this point, but it's nice to bring it up. He's also got like gold chef too. He can move. Like, his jump shot isn't that bad. He's just slow. Like, that's kind of the only issue. And when I say slow, it's 86 speed, which a month ago, 2 months ago, wouldn't have been that big of a deal. But when you guys got like guys like Rudy coming out with like 93 speed, it's a little rough. But he's also has elite defensive tendencies, which I feel like every card from this point forward is going to have elite defensive tendencies realistically. But McDermott is fire. Next up, we got Joakim Noah. I think Joakim Noah is also worth buying at some point. I talked about a lot of these cards in my market video, especially when it comes to the Bracket Buster guys, so I'm not going to go into too much detail here. But Joakim is an incredibly good defensive center. He's really, really good for offline play, and if left wide open, he can easily hit threes. So for that reason, I would probably pick him up just for that. Chris Dunn is another guy that I would pick up. Like, I've said it before, and I'm sure I'm going to get flack for this, but he seems to just be better Marcus Smart. Like, Ruby Marcus Smart, he just seems to be a slightly better version of that card at this point, which I shouldn't be getting flack for that, because Chris Dunn came out this weekend at the end of March, and Marcus Smart came out, what, December? I don't even remember when Marcus Smart came out. It was a long time ago, though. Danny Ferry is significantly too expensive for sure. He is a top tier small forward, power forward, but the one thing I will say about Danny Ferry is they'll probably release something in the next 2 weeks that's going to be as good or better than Danny Ferry, realistically. So just think about that before you go splurge. Jarrett Culver's a really fun card. I mean, he's worth picking up. He's remarkably cheap. Like, you can get him for like 1,000 MT, and he's absolutely worth that price, no question about it. Tyler Hansbrough. He's actually one of the better budget power forwards in the game. You'd be surprised. He plays lockdown defense. He's a good interior presence. His jump shot is really solid. He's got that Dolph Shays base on Quick, the base 38. He plays good defense. The only issue with Tyler Hansbrough is just that he's a little bit slow as well. But he also has a pretty wide player build, so it's not really that big of a deal. But if you're looking for like a budget big man that's going to play more of a traditional like 3-and-D role, Tyler Hansbrough is really solid. Dwayne Wade is a buyout. The one thing I will say is if you're on next gen, he's really, really good. And it's not like he's not good on current gen either. It's just what I will say is if you can get Cade Cunningham for the same price, it's probably better to get Cade for the same price. That's what I'm saying about that. But Wade can really hold it down. Excellent defender. Just nothing really wrong with him. Timmy D. This card annoys me for a variety of reasons. He's really, really good. And he's an excellent big man. But the part that really annoys me is that he can't get Limitless spot up for some reason. But then his Power Within one has Hoff Limitless spot up. Like they couldn't let my man have even Silver Limitless on this card. If he had Silver, I absolutely would use him. And you can't add it to him either, but you can give him Chef. It makes no sense whatsoever. But you can get him for around 30K. And I would say for 30K, he's a top tier big man. Like, because the other options at the 30K price tag would be like Robert Parrish and like Pau Gasol. And I would say Tim Duncan's probably better overall than both those guys. Like, Robert Parrish is a better defender, but he lacks a lot of playmaking and shooting, which Tim Duncan can bring you. And like Pau Gasol is a better shooter and playmaker, but he lacks the defense that Tim Duncan gives you. So I think it's like a combination of those two guys, realistically. So for that price, I would say it's definitely worth it. I'm not even going to talk about the high tier guys. That's not why we're here right now. Scottie Pippen has fallen in value a little bit. Still really expensive. Still one of the best cards you can get for under 100K, though. No question about it. Scotty's a lockdown defender. His jump shot's really good, and he can operate as a point forward better than almost anyone. I mean, we saw it yesterday in the tournament finals. So, Cade is a buyout. He is the best point guard on current gen. No question about it. I would say he is worth the price, but I just don't know how long he'll be worth the price. Like, knowing 2K, we're going to get out of position cards in 2 weeks that may displace Cade Cunningham as far as, being a top tier point guard that you can get for under 100K. It depends, though. He's still really good, so I don't think they would displace him for long, if that makes sense. Looking at some of the other guys, like I still think Jalen Green is one of the best budget point guards in the game, 69K. Nice. He's still really, really solid. Like, I know some people like prefer Dinwiddie and stuff, which I'm going to highlight Dinwiddie too, because Dinwiddie's incredibly good. I think both of them are very good. I personally prefer Jalen Green, but Dinwiddie's also just as good. If you're looking for a score first budget point guard, go with Jalen Green. If you're looking for more of a traditional point guard, go with Dinwiddie. But for the price that they're coming for, like, because you could realistically run Jalen Green and Evan Turner as your 2 point guards, or Dinwiddie and Evan Turner, and you will do just fine. Magic's still fire. I really don't care what anyone has to say about it. I know he's got a terrible load up animation, but you can get a 6'9" point guard for like 20-something K, which is stupid. I would prefer to get the Power Within one because you can add like Chef and Limitless Spot Up, which does help him out a little bit. It's harder to kind of box him in if he has those 2 badges. If you can prove that you can shoot from range with Magic, like, people will respect it a little bit more. The thing Magic brings you, and I would say this is true on both gens, against like an experienced player that's dealt with something of this nature before, it's not going to be incredibly effective. But if you're running a Hawks freelance 5 out and you start backing their point guard down, eventually the CPU is going to break and collapse and leave an open 3 somewhere. Obviously, if you're running against somebody that like really knows what they're doing in regards to defensive settings and defense period, that's not going to work all the time, but it definitely works against the CPU more than you would expect. So really good. Wish Tim Duncan was affordable. I mean, he is. I have 500K. I just don't feel like spending it. But Tim Duncan's probably one of the best big men in the game. I'm shocked Hakeem is not a buyout at this point, honestly. All right, let's look at some other guys that are a little bit cheap. Let's start with Yi. Yi was included in the locker code last night, so Yi is incredibly cheap for that reason. That being said, I think that's pretty cool. Like I just don't. I don't know. I would say he's worth it though for this price. I would say there's no question he's worth it. Sorry, I'm trying to look up. Forgot exactly what the other cards were that were in the locker code. There we go. Okay. I would say he's worth this price though. If you can get him for cheap enough, like, he's definitely worth it. Even if you're just building like an all Nets team, I think he's worth this price. Like 15K, that's silly. That's a silly amount for Yi. Is he a top tier power forward in this game at this point? No, I would say no. His jump shot's kind of slow. Like he does lack some badges, but absolutely for 14,000 MT, he's top tier for that price. No question about it. Like that's fantastic. He's cheaper than Wang. Like it's crazy. Monte also is up here. Monte is more expensive because no one chose Monte Ellis. Like I'm probably going to pick him up just because Monte is my boy, and that way I'll have a Monte Ellis card finally. This card was way too expensive for a long period of time, so I'm probably just going to pick him up for like 14K or whatever he's going for, just for funsies. Like why not? He's good though. He's all right. You're not really going to be using him in any like meaningful capacity, but at the same time, he's all right. Then we got Cold Blooded. Allen Houston was in here as well. There's just so many good shooting guards that you can pick up. It's not really worth picking up Allen Houston. He's not the worst card in the world, but when you can get RJ Barrett and Cam Reddish and Kyle Korver for the same price, there's really just no point. You know what I mean? Then we had Amari Stoudemire, which why couldn't they give us Karl Anthony Towns or just like anyone else? Like why couldn't we have Grant Hill in the locker code? Why? Like why couldn't we have Grant Hill in this locker code? This locker code makes no sense because of the players they chose. Like I like Allen Houston more than the next guy, I do, and Monte's my boy, but like why didn't you give us Grant Hill, who like is a more meta card that like people would want to use? You know what I mean? Why don't you give us Grant Hill, Derrick Rose, who nobody uses anyway? Like instead of Monte, just give us D Rose. Like who cares? They're gonna drop a Dark Matter D Rose in like a week anyway. Yeah, Amari's not really worth picking up either, realistically. I mean, if he's really cheap, so if you want to pick him up for that reason, I would say go for it. But like for meta purposes, he's not really worth picking up. And then we got Pistol Pete, that's who I ended up choosing. I probably should have. We're not doing lock-ins anymore, so it doesn't really matter who I choose. Like, yeah, maybe Monte would have been the best call because I feel like his price is going to be the highest out of all of them because he's the one nobody chose, but it really doesn't matter. Pistol Pete you can get for nothing, and he's probably one of the better budget point guards in this game for the under 25K category, no question. Also, look at this hair, dog. I know I'm not one to talk, but like Pistol Pete, I can't believe this man used to roll up to the club with this haircut and leave with like partners. That's crazy. That's absolutely absurd to me. He's still good though. Like, I mean, he's got good badges. Like, he's going to be an effective offensive player, especially if you're on current gen. He's going to definitely be solid for offline play. There's no question about it. He plays good enough defense. Ray Allen base on normal is fine. It's not the worst in the world. People were complaining about it, but it's really not that big of a deal. His tendencies aren't terrible. They're not great though. But as far as for a free card that you're getting in a locker code, I mean, he's fine. I wish they would have gave us Rick Barry. That would have been sick. I can dream. Anyways, looking at some other budget cards that I highlight often, obviously Lamar Odom's my guy. Embiid is a buyout. I still think he's good enough to be up here, but like I said, I would just... Also, we got free Pat Burke. There's been some decent cards to run. MJ, I just wish they would let my man have an elite card. His jump shot is fine. Just give him dribble sigs, bro. Like, that's all people are asking for at this point. Signature series cards. D-Rob still, he was a buyout. It would appear that he's not now. I just feel like I'm just going to hold off on that till next Friday. I don't really need a center that bad. Same with Rudy. Like, I was hoping to get an improved Rudy, but no one wants to yet. I mean, he was just featured very prominently in the 250K finals, so I didn't really expect that to be the case. I think there is some buyout regular D-Robs, but like, yeah, there's a couple. And D-Rob's still worth it, but I think we are going to get some more centers here in the next couple weeks, I would say. Like I said, we're getting an out-of-position set that typically doesn't have the best big men, but you never know really what we're going to be getting in that regard. Like, you don't. Like, who knows? Truly, who knows what we're going to be getting from that set? It could be anything. RJ Barrett, Cam Reddish are still about 15K, and they're still easily the two best options that you could buy for that price range. I mean, Stackhouse is up there too. Stackhouse is really good. Like, as far as for 3K and under, you could do a lot worse than grabbing Gerald Green and Duncan Robinson. Some other like really cheap guys I wanted to highlight. Marvin Bagley, very good for his price. Like, you can get him for about, what, 2K? I don't want to add him the exchange. Yeah, you can get him for about 2K, and that's a very good price for him. I mean, that's about the same you can get Joakim Noah for. And I think Noah's really nice for that price as well. There's some signature series guys. Obviously, Hito is really good. Um, there's someone else too. There's another guy really. Oh, Bobby Portis. Bobby Portis is my guy. For some reason, this one's 6,000 MT. I'm not entirely sure what that's all about. But these signature series cards have like the worst odds ever. Portis is worth this price though. Like he is. He stretches the floor nice. I like his jump shot. He's 6'10". Like he's decent. You could do a lot worse than building a budget squad that looks. Yeah, give me that Evan Turner, dog. Send to my auctions. Yeah, give me the Monte too. Add to the collection. You already know what it is. Should I have spent that MT on that card? Probably not, but it is what it is. Give me my 100 XP. I don't even care. You could do a lot worse building like a really solid budget lineup. Like realistically, like I'll go over to the Sapphire squad. Like, by the way, I was using this for XP, but if you were to run like a squad of this nature, right, you could do a lot worse, right? Like, let's say you're running Pistol Pete, Evan Turner, which is fine, and then you're running, I don't know, who's the shooting guard that's coming out here? Jalen Green, perhaps. No, you're obviously running RJ Barrett and Cam Reddish for sure, right? I'm just trying to build like a pretty interesting, relatively low cost squad that you could build that's going to be effective, right? And then for the power forward, you run it Pat Berg. And then for the center position, you're running who's a good free option or a good budget option. Let's see. I mean, the center position's pretty bad. So, oh, you're running Powell. And then off the bench, you're running. Let's see. Where's my boy Tyler? Yeah, Tyler Hansbrough for sure. We're running my boy Tyler Hansbrough, no question about it. You're running Evan Turner at the shooting guard. Who needs to come out here and get ran? Jarrett Culver, maybe, perhaps. Derek Anderson's still really good too, by the way. Like, no joke about that. He's still more than usable. Okay, so you're running, let's just say Hito, right? Hito at the small forward. He's not the greatest defender, but he can definitely cook on the offensive end. Then you can run Kyle Korver, who's relatively cheap, Hansbrough, and then at the center position, off the bench, you could run. You know what? I'm gonna make it even cheaper. Let's get rid of Hito and let's run Doug McDermott. Like, yeah, make buckets. This squad will cost you roughly around like 70K, right? Because Pistol Pete's free, Pat Berg's free. Pau Gasol is relatively cheap. I mean, you could realistically run Hansbrough. He's like 3K. That's like really good price. Kyle Korver is kind of the only one I would say might be a little bit too expensive. So for that reason, you could run Jarrett Culver or Duncan Robinson. It doesn't really matter. I would run Duncan Robinson, right? You could run this lineup for really cheap. I mean, these two right here are going to cost you about 30K with Powell. That'll bring you to about 45K roughly. Pete Maravich is free. Pat Burke is free. Evan Turner is about 3,000. That'll bring you roughly to about 48. Duncan Robinson's like 2K, 50. These three together are like 6K. So this is roughly a 56K squad right here. And this squad can get it done. You don't even really have to use Joakim Noah either. You can realistically run anyone at the center position. It doesn't matter. You can run Hansbrough if you want. Hansbrough he's not the biggest dude in the world, but he can definitely hold it down if you really need to. You know what I mean? Like I said, not great, but you could definitely get it done with Hansbrough. Other cards that you could realistically use for relatively cheap that I think would be effective. He's a little bit smaller, but I like this card a lot, and that's Earl Monroe. Earl Monroe is really, really good. There's just so many good budget cards at this point. Like, if you have specific questions, always hop in the comments. You know your boy will help you out. As always, spend your boy cheap, Ludes. I don't know if this structure is going to stay the same or I'm going to go back to doing the top 10 list. I just had people give me constructive criticism, so I wanted to come out here and do a little bit of a different video this time. So we'll see how it works. But have a good day. Peace.